In other news, we are now moving on to Elon Musk, who had a pretty important rocket launch, which unfortunately exploded and failed. As much as I hate Elon Musk, I don't hate the fucking engineers that work at SpaceX. They're working their goddamn best. Fuck Elon Musk and all, but I think the final frontier is achievable. It is well within our. It's something that we can. It's something that we should continue focusing on. I think it's a great thing overall. I'm a fan of SpaceX and what they do. It's all NASA JPL shit anyway. But at least it launched, so that's a bit of a success.
Following some breaking news this hour, SpaceX's Starship rocket.
I gotta pee. I'll be back.
The company is calling a quote rapidly unscheduled disassembly, which means to you and me, the launch was a failure. Short time ago, SpaceX launched the Starship rocket. The hope is that it will eventually take people to the moon and someday even Mars. CBS News space analyst Bill Harwood is at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida following this for us. Bill, thanks for joining us.
What happened?
Yeah, so tell us what happened.
Well, we're not sure yet what happened, but in the lead up to this launch on SpaceX's webpage, they put a countdown up and they said when it got to 0, excitement guaranteed. And it certainly was that. The rocket did take off, which was a major accomplishment. It cleared the tower. It appeared that a few of the 33 first stage engines were not firing. Not clear if that's a malfunction or intentional. And then just before 2 minutes into flight, the exhaust plume out of the base of the rocket sort of went asymmetrical. You could tell it was no longer as symmetric as it had been. And a few seconds after that, it started a slow tumble and then exploded. We think the automatic self-destruct system activated. But we called it a failure at the top of the show. It's really maybe a successful failure is one way to put it. I mean, it's the first flight of a rocket this big, biggest rocket ever built. And the fact that they got it up at all was fairly impressive. They'll learn from this and they'll try again.
I guess that is how this sort of stuff works, right?
But Elon Musk just tweeted, "Congrats, SpaceX team, on an exciting test launch of the Starship."
How
Learned
long
a
ago
lot.
did he tweet that?
1 minute ago.
Oh.
Yeah, controversial opinion, but this is normal and it's not bad. And it's going to keep happening until it no longer happens. That's kind of how this works. You know what I mean? Fuck Elon Musk, but, yeah. Welcome to aerospace engineering. Exactly. I don't know. As much as I love shitting on Elon Musk, the reality is that this is how these kind of launches work. And this is part of the reason why, regardless of how much fucking people hate Elon Musk, even people like my brother will still say, at the very least, SpaceX is able to make these kinds of things without additional government scrutiny and oversight as a private company. That is the one advantage that SpaceX has over NASA, because a lot of people look at this and go, what a big waste of fucking funds. Oh my God, another fucking spaceship blew up. And while SpaceX literally currently works with government funding, because it's done under the veneer of a private corporation, people don't have that same level of scrutiny towards it. So SpaceX can get away with a lot of launch, with a lot of failures like this. And, that's how aerospace engineering works. There's a shit ton of failure until it basically works. And then it's no longer a failure. L-Take. What is this? Environmentalist and Native American tribe rebuke SpaceX ahead of historic. Oh, yeah. There is this component, by the way. The issue here is that the place that they're actually launching from what I understand, is that here, SpaceX elected to build its launch site in the middle of a one-of-its-kind preserve for migratory seabirds, some of which travel thousands of miles to lay eggs there. So that element of it is actually fucked up. I will say that is actually fucked up. Because anytime you do stuff like this, you have to be very careful. A big chunk hit a car parked nearby. Wait, really? What the fuck? Is that real? Lib take, to be honest? What do you mean? What's a lib take? They're deliberately under promising. So SpaceX doesn't take government money? No, of course they do. Of course they take government money. The thing is, they don't have the same scrutiny that NASA does because it's not directly funded by the government. Bro, back in the day, when all space travel was conducted in-house by NASA, the types of shit that congresspersons would get away with was absolutely insane. I wish for a world in which government funding and NASA could, keep doing what it's been doing. But unfortunately, people consider that to be, something that you can play political football with. Oh, why the fuck are we spending so much money on space travel when we got people that are dying on the streets, people that are starving, that kind of stuff? Reasonable arguments like that can be launched towards this kind of thing and then there's also unreasonable arguments from the right. Bro, guys, I'll tell you something. There is a literal fucking congressperson who was in charge of NASA funding, who was a right-wing freak that actually literally flew in a spaceship, okay? Specifically because he was like, I personally think he wanted to do it. He was a pilot, okay? And I think he wanted to do it personally. And he used his power that he had in Congress to literally go and engage in space travel. Okay? No, it wasn't Mark Kelly, weirdos. Mark Kelly is an astronaut. So is his twin brother. I'm talking about a guy who was in Congress who had the power of the purse over NASA funding and literally was like, if you want me to, is it Bill Nelson? They call it, and he threw up so fucking violently. Was it? No, it wasn't Bill Nelson. No. It's not Bill Nelson. No. I'm talking about, no. This is a totally different person. He vomited so violently when he hit, he hit G-forces when he hit, yeah, I think it's Jake Garn, maybe. Yeah, hold on. I'm going to give you the full story. 1 second. Yeah. Okay, here. Edwin Jacob Jake Garn, born October 12, 1932, is an American politician and member of the Republican Party who served as a U.S. Senator representing Utah from 1974 to 1993. Garn became the first sitting member of Congress to fly in space when he flew aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery as a payload specialist during NASA mission STS-51D. So here's the real story behind it. He literally was the chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, and he asked to fly on the space shuttle because he was the head of the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee that dealt with NASA and had extensive aviation experience. He had previously flown a B-2 Spirit prototype and driven a new U.S. Army tank. He liked to play with toys. He began publicly asking NASA about flying on the shuttle, and the agency had long planned to fly citizen passengers, blah, blah, blah. But the real reason why they let him do it is because he wanted to do a fact-finding trip. I do really think that it's a necessity that congressmen check things out that they vote for and makes that certain funds are being spent adequately. Like, what the fuck are you going to do? It might be necessary to have a senator kick the tire. No, you just personally wanted to fly and engage in space travel, which is fine. It's, super sick. And this fucking asshole, ironically, cost NASA more money to be the payload specialist on board. But there's a funny end to this. It was launched and returned to land at the Kennedy Space Center, Florida. Its primary objective was to deploy 2 communication satellites and to perform electrophoresis and echocardiograph operations in space. Garn's role on the mission was a congressional observer and as a subject for the medical experiments on space motion sickness. At the conclusion of the mission, Garn had traveled over 2.5 million miles. Okay? logging over 167 hours in space. The space sickness Garn experienced during the journey was so severe that a scale for space sickness was jokingly based on him, where 1 Garn is the highest possible level of sickness. He threw up so much. He threw up so much because he was not experienced enough to fly that they made a fool of him. So, yeah. Why am I telling you about this wonderful story? Is it simply to flex my knowledge on weird aerospace engineering facts? No. Well, yes and no. The reason why I'm telling you this is because congressional scrutiny was, and the political football that they played with funding NASA, dramatically halted, in many instances, NASA's operations. It stood in front of science and scientific achievements in this field. Okay? This is why, unfortunately, in our current organization of the economy and how the American government works, that's why I say, or that's why at least engineers will look to someone like Elon Musk and see the benefits of SpaceX's existence. Okay? Because it is a private company, it does not have to withstand the same level of scrutiny, especially when they have instances where they have failure to launch or anything like that. Oh, by the way, this is a pretty fun fact. Upon his return, he co-wrote the 1989 novel Night Launch. The book centers around terrorists taking control of the Space Shuttle Discovery during the NASA USSR Space Shuttle flight. Forgot about that part. Now, of course, funding a private corporation like SpaceX can still be turned into political football, but it's less likely than NASA being directly funded, even if the funds are the same, if not more. I was talking to my astronomer friend, and he hates Elon, but because of what you said, he doesn't mind SpaceX because it's an improvement over the incredibly slow government machine. Yeah. No, exactly. This is what a lot of engineers say about it. As much as I hate Elon Musk, SpaceX undoubtedly helped the mission I worked on get launched on time rather than the other government contracts that were going at a glacial pace. Yes. A lot of the glacial pace that you talk about with respect to government contracts come from the reality that government funding is very delicate when it comes to scientific achievements. Government funding for oil subsidies, endless. You can literally light an entire oil rig on fire, knowing full well that 80% of energy subsidies are still going to your industry. Okay? But government funding for scientific pursuits is always a fickle bitch. So they have to stay and be very deliberate, be very careful, not to take any missteps. There's a lot of, there's you can't be imaginative. Okay? The slow government machine that went from farmers to space travel in one-time USSR. My friend, I'm talking about the United States of America. Of course, I talk about how the USSR went from potato farming to beating the US in the space race. And don't forget the unpriced externalities from the oil industry. So much subsidy. Yeah. This dumbass country has spent hundreds of millions on underwater rodent husbandry. I hate the selective whataboutism that hogs and libs use to criticize funding. Yeah, but, you know, everybody picks and chooses. Everybody hyper-focuses on what's in front of their fucking face. And, you know, people do have the capacity to get, like, really, really, really fucking aggro when, like, manufactured outrage campaigns work. That's what I mean.
So it's 10:01. He tweeted that 1 minute ago. Does he not know, or is it what Bill is saying?
But Bill is saying this is part of the process. You got to lose a few rockets.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, then.
Elon is in mission control down in Texas. He was there witnessing every bit of this, and he's been encouraging to the team all week. So, no, I think he was saying congratulations because, you know, he said before launch there was a very good chance that this would not succeed the first time out of the gate. As it turns out, he was right.
How is a rocket blowing up in the middle of the sky owned by the richest man on earth manufactured outrage? Wait, what? No, man. No, I'm not talking about that. I also have a different take on this. Like, this is the one fucking instance where perhaps it's because I have, you know, a little bit more knowledge over aerospace engineering and what it takes to fucking, you know, make cutting edge technology in this field. But, like, I have a different perspective on this, but what I was talking about with respect to manufacturing outrage is like, if this happens under NASA, every Republican's like, dude, why the fuck are we blowing up rockets when we could be blowing up babies in Yemen? You know what I mean? We need to give more money to Raytheon. Make sure we're making rockets that blow up not on U.S. soil, but blow up on Yemen, dog. Blow up on Mexican cartels. Like, do you understand? To be fair, the space industry is financially hand-in-hand with the defense industry. Absolutely correct. Their funding is often linked because the government contracts with Boeing, Raytheon, etc. Absolutely correct. I think it's fair to criticize if you tie it in with the larger military-industrial complex. Absolutely correct, which, of course, dumbass chuds don't do. Yes, notice how the only part of this kind of scientific achievement, this kind of R&D that is heavily scrutinized, is the one that doesn't directly pertain to blowing up children. Yes, you are correct. So, yeah. Starlink has shown that Elon doesn't actually care about astronomy, just to show space travel. It messes up a lot of ground-based observation. Yeah.
So I think he was telling the team, great job for the effort. And they'll get a lot of telemetry out of this. And like I said, they'll try again.
Yeah, my comment about whether he knows was tongue-in-cheek.
I know.
I mean, it's just sort of like, I think for people who are watching it, when you say, it's hard for people to reconcile it.
WVU Couchburner said it best and succinct. Since SpaceX is perceived as a private endeavor, they are able to spend the requisite funds to actually advance the field without getting cucked by pocket watching like the shuttle program was in the wake of the Columbia explosion. Yes. That's it. That's the point. That is precisely the point I've been making this whole time.
It didn't work it was successful, even if it didn't work.
Yeah, but you know, failure, as we know, for most things that are hard to do, the road to success includes a lot of failure. Sure. That's how you get there. Though it seems like a very expensive road. How significant is this project? Why is Elon Musk spending so much time and energy and money?
I'm not saying this is a unlock or a gotcha. I'm just new at this, and I would genuinely like to how we would arrive at something like SpaceX via a social or a communist organization of the economy. Look no further than the USSR, which we also mentioned, collectivized over the course of, not through like, chattel slavery, but over the course of a much shorter period of time, and went from a nation of potato farmers who were in a state of disarray to a nation that was able to beat the United States in space travel. Never forget, USSR went to space first. Yuri Gagarin went to space first. We have literally the counter to that, NASA, here in the United States of America. Okay? So no. If anything, the only reason, many people will say this as well, the only reason why the United States focused so much on the space race was because of our endless battle against the USSR. Because in order to make life-changing, wide-sweeping, over-encompassing technological improvements, you need to think beyond the short-term financial gains that capitalism locks you into. Okay? Capitalism forces you into thinking about short-term profits over long-term technological improvements. And also, for the record, the norm is that space travel is government funded, not the other way around. But in the United States of America, we are so hyper-capitalist that we don't see anything other than our fucking noses, that we literally personally think that it's the opposite that's the truth. We were so cucked by the Soviets that we had to contract Nazis to help develop our mid-space program. First of all, that's Operation Paperclip, and there's truth to that, but the USSR did that too, okay? There was a lot of fucking rocket scientists that the USSR also took, a lot of rocket science on the Nazi side that the USSR also took advantage of. So don't act like that was a one-sided affair, okay? If the program was public, it would be extremely underfunded, so I don't understand this argument. Brother, something being crippled by underfunding does not mean the principle behind it cannot exist. That's why I said the norm with successful space programs, including historically successful space programs like the USSR's space program, is that the government funds it. Only in the United States of America is there a legitimate issue with government funding space travel. Okay? Hello? Anyway. Ay, ay, ay. Why is this always such a difficult subject matter to parse through without people understanding what I'm saying? I feel like maybe I'm not doing a good job as an orator.
Money on this.
You know what? Elon says that this rocket is the key to SpaceX's future. You know, the Falcon 9 has pioneered reusable rocket technology. We're all used to seeing that first stage come down for a landing. But the amount of cargo that it can carry is limited. The Starship, both stages are fully reusable, which will greatly reduce the cost of this system if they can make it work. Now, it's absolutely critical to SpaceX's long-range plans. It's also critical to NASA's. You know, the upper stage of this rocket that we saw launched today, SpaceX is building a variant of that stage for NASA to serve as the Artemis program's lunar lander. It's going to be carrying astronauts down to the surface of the moon in just a couple of years, if all goes well. It's a big question mark. Can they get there in time? Can they perfect this rocket in time to meet NASA's schedule? But it's an absolutely critical piece of equipment for both NASA and for SpaceX.
All right. Bill Harwood, always great to have you breaking it down for us. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, this is a complex industry that a lot of people have that come with preconceived notions, and there's valid ones too. Its ties to the defense industry is a valid point of contention. It's the conversation surrounding like why we're funding this when there's like fucking starving children in this country is a relatively reasonable one, but there are definitely areas where you can make that argument make a much better argument to take funds away from. So, you know, I think that a lot of the space travel technology that accompanies the technological achievements are secondary components, though. Like the military aspect or the military usage of NASA technology is not the immediate protocol. If it was the immediate reason, like if there was a war budget component to space travel, trust me, it would be significantly better funded and NASA would be in-house. It would not be outsourced to SpaceX in order to make these like wide sweeping technological achievements. The R&D would be subsidized and also handled in-house. That's the point. Most original tech was government driven? Yes. Apparently, cordless drills were made by NASA, and we all enjoy those battery powered tools. Yes. Also, flammable material, like or the shit that like firefighters wear. Velcro. Like, there's so much. Or non-flammable material. Well, flammable and non-flammable is the same, isn't it? Flame retardant. Sorry. Flame R-worded material. Yeah. No, flame retardant material. Flame propagant.